I was in bed with my boss when my husband's voice boomed through the phone. "You've got 5 seconds to get your stuff out of my wife, or I'll cut your Johnson in half twice." My heart dropped. Jake, my boss, laughed nervously, brushing it off. "Screw you," he said, completely oblivious to what was coming. But I wasn't. I knew my husband, Liam. I knew what he was capable of. Liam had served as a sniper in the Middle East, a man who never made empty threats. My chest tightened as I imagined the chaos about to unfold. Then, out of nowhere, I heard a loud, sharp bang echoing from outside. My stomach twisted. Jake froze, his smug grin vanishing. "What the hell was that?" he whispered, fear creeping into his voice. "It's him," I stammered, my voice barely audible. "He's here." Suddenly, the night spiraled into something out of a nightmare. But little did I know, this was only the beginning. The bang outside wasn't just a warning shot. It was Liam making his presence known. Jake jumped out of bed, scrambling to pull on his clothes as his confident facade crumbled. For the first time, I saw him for what he really was, a coward in a tailored suit. "Rachel, what the hell is going on?" Jake hissed, his voice barely a whisper, as if staying quiet would somehow save him. "You need to leave. Now," I snapped, panic choking me as I wrapped a sheet around myself. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might explode. "I'm not going anywhere. He can't do anything to me," Jake said, though his voice wavered with every word. "You don't know him like I do." I grabbed his arm, nails digging into his skin. "He's not bluffing, Jake. You need to leave before he—" Before I could finish, Liam's voice cut through the tension like a knife. "I'm coming in," he roared from outside the door. "You've got 3 seconds to explain why your car is parked in front of my house." The door rattled violently as Liam pounded on it. Jake's face went pale, and he looked at me like I was supposed to fix this. But there was no fixing this. "Rachel," Liam shouted, his voice colder now. "Don't make me break this door down." Jake finally snapped out of his stupor and grabbed his shoes. "This is insane," he muttered, slipping them on. "I'm not dealing with some psycho husband. I'm out of here." But as soon as he turned toward the window, there was another bang, a louder, closer one. The window shattered as Liam's warning shot struck the frame, glass scattering across the floor like tiny shards of judgment. Jake stumbled back, his face a mask of terror. "I'm not going to miss next time," Liam bellowed. Jake spun around, his chest heaving. "He's crazy. He's actually crazy." "No," I said quietly, my throat dry. "He's just getting started." The door burst open, and there he was, Liam, standing in the doorway like an avenging angel. His military training was evident in every controlled movement, every calculated glance. He wasn't holding a gun anymore, but the cold fury in his eyes was enough to make Jake cower. "Get out," Liam said, his voice low and deadly. "Now!" Jake tried to muster some dignity, straightening his tie as if that would make him less pathetic. "Listen, man, this isn't what it looks like." Liam cut him off with a laugh that was more menacing than any threat. "What it looks like? It looks like you were in bed with my wife." He took a step closer, and Jake stumbled back. "Now, you've got 2 choices. Walk out of here on your own 2 feet, or I drag you out." Jake hesitated, his gaze flickering to me as if I could save him. But I didn't move. I couldn't. "Fine," Jake muttered, raising his hands. "I'm going." Liam stepped aside, giving him just enough room to squeeze past. But as Jake tried to slink out, Liam grabbed his arm in a vice-like grip. "One more thing," Liam said, his voice icy. "If I ever see you near her again, I'll make sure you regret it. Understand?" Jake nodded frantically, and Liam shoved him toward the door. He didn't stop running until he was out of sight. Once we were alone, Liam turned to me. The intensity in his eyes hadn't softened, and for a moment, I thought he might direct all that rage toward me. "So," he said, his voice calm but razor-sharp, "how long has this been going on?" I opened my mouth, but no words came out. What could I say? That it was a mistake? That I hadn't meant for it to happen? None of that would matter. "Answer me, Rachel," he demanded, his tone rising. "How long?" 2 months, I finally admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Liam laughed bitterly, running a hand through his hair. 2 months, and you thought I wouldn't find out? I didn't. You didn't think, period, he snapped, cutting me off. Do you have any idea what you've done? What you've destroyed? His words hit harder than any slap could. I wanted to defend myself, to explain, but there was no excuse. I had betrayed him in the worst possible way, and now I was watching the fallout in real time. Liam paced the room, his hands clenched into fists. You know what the worst part is? I loved you. I trusted you. And this, he gestured to the bed, to the shattered window. This is what I get in return? Tears pricked my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. I didn't deserve his pity. What are you going to do? I asked, my voice trembling. Liam stopped pacing and looked at me, his expression unreadable. What am I going to do? He shook his head, laughing bitterly again. Rachel, you should be asking yourself what you're going to do. Because from where I'm standing, you've got nothing left. And with that, he walked out, leaving me alone in the wreckage of what used to be our life. The silence after Liam left was deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of the floorboards as I stumbled toward the shattered window. The cool night air stung my skin, and I felt the weight of everything I had done crushing down on me. My hands trembled as I pulled the curtains closed, as if shutting out the outside world could somehow erase what had just happened. I stood there for a moment, staring at the broken glass on the floor, my reflection fractured into 1,000 pieces. It felt symbolic. My life, my choices, my marriage, all shattered beyond repair. The room still smelled of Jake's cologne, an acrid reminder of the betrayal Liam had just uncovered. I sat on the edge of the bed, the sheets tangled and accusing. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, and for a second I thought it might be Liam. But it wasn't. It was Jake. Jake, is he gone? Are you okay? I wanted to throw the phone across the room. Okay? How could I possibly be okay? My life was in ruins, and Jake thought this was just a bad day gone wrong. I didn't reply. Instead, I tried to think about what to do next. Liam was gone. But where? Was he planning something? Would he come back? I couldn't tell if I was more afraid of him returning or of him never coming back at all. Hours passed, but sleep never came. I paced the house, replaying the night's events over and over in my mind. I couldn't believe how quickly everything had unraveled. One moment, I was living a double life, juggling secrets and lies. The next, everything was out in the open, and I was left standing in the wreckage. The sound of the front door opening jolted me out of my thoughts. My heart leapt into my throat as I turned toward the hallway, half expecting Liam to storm back in. But it wasn't him. It was Amanda, my best friend. She must have let herself in with the spare key. Her face was a mix of concern and confusion as she stepped inside, her eyes darting to the broken window. What the hell happened here? She asked, setting her purse down on the counter. I didn't know where to start. How could I explain what had just happened? The words caught in my throat as I tried to piece together an answer. Liam found out. I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. Amanda's eyes widened, and she let out a low whistle. Found out about Jake? I nodded, and she let out a string of curses, pacing the kitchen like she was the one whose life had just fallen apart. Okay, she said, stopping to face me. What do we do? Her words threw me off. This wasn't her mess to clean up. It was mine. But before I could say anything, she grabbed her phone and started dialing. Wait, what are you doing? I asked, my voice sharp. Calling Jake. He needs to know how bad this is, she said. Don't! I practically shouted, grabbing the phone from her. The last thing I need is Jake getting more involved. Amanda raised an eyebrow. Rachel, he's already involved. You think Liam's just going to let this slide? You need to figure out your next move before he does. Her words sent a chill down my spine. She was right. Liam wasn't the type to let things go. I had seen that side of him before. The side that didn't forgive, that didn't forget. What do? I asked, my voice cracking as I sank into a chair. Amanda sighed, sitting down across from me. First, you need to figure out if Liam's coming back. If he is, you need to be ready for whatever he's planning. If he's not, she trailed off, her expression darkening. Then you need to figure out how to protect yourself. The word protect hung heavy in the air. From what? From Liam? From the fallout of my own actions? As the night dragged on, Amanda helped me clean up the broken glass and put the room back together as best we could. But no amount of cleaning could erase what had happened. Every corner of the house felt tainted, every memory now overshadowed by the events of that night. By the time Amanda left, the sun was starting to rise. Exhausted but restless, I sat on the couch, staring blankly at the TV. My mind raced with questions I couldn't answer. Where was Liam? What was he thinking? And most importantly, what was he going to do next? I didn't have to wait long for an answer. Around noon, a knock at the door shattered the fragile calm I had managed to build. My heart raced as I stood frozen in the living room, staring at the door like it might come alive. Another knock, louder this time. "Rachel," a familiar voice called out. It wasn't Liam. It was the police. I opened the door to find two officers standing on the porch, their expressions serious. "Mrs. Parker?" one of them asked. "Yes," I replied, my voice shaking. "We need to talk to you about your husband." My blood ran cold. What had Liam done? The words hit me like a brick wall. "We need to talk to you about your husband." My mind raced. What had Liam done? Was he in trouble? Did he do something to Jake? 1,000 possibilities flooded my brain, none of them good. I stepped aside to let the officers in, my hands shaking as I gestured for them to sit. The house felt even smaller with their presence, the weight of their seriousness bearing down on me. "Is he okay?" I asked, barely managing to get the words out. One of the officers, a middle-aged man with a thick mustache, exchanged a glance with his partner, a younger woman who looked more like she was studying me than preparing to answer. "Mrs. Parker," the man began, his tone careful, "your husband, Liam, was involved in an incident last night." My stomach dropped. "What kind of incident?" The younger officer leaned forward, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Do you know a Jacob Mitchell?" "Jake!" My heart skipped a beat, and I felt the blood drain from my face. "Yes, he's my boss," I said, though the words felt like poison on my tongue. "We've been informed that there was an altercation involving Mr. Mitchell and your husband," the mustached officer said, his voice steady but firm. "We're trying to locate your husband to get his side of the story." I froze. "You're looking for Liam? Why?" The younger officer's expression hardened. "Because Mr. Mitchell was found early this morning at a local hospital. He claims your husband attacked him." My breath caught in my throat. Jake was in the hospital? What had Liam done? "That doesn't make any sense," I stammered. "He left here last night, but I don't know where he went. He was angry, but he wouldn't." My voice trailed off, the doubt creeping in despite my best efforts to push it away. "Mrs. Parker," the male officer said, his tone shifting to one of authority, "we need to know everything that happened last night. Your husband's whereabouts, any interactions he may have had with Mr. Mitchell. It's important that we get a clear picture." I felt cornered, like a deer caught in headlights. Should I protect Liam? Should I tell them the truth? What was the truth? "I don't know where Liam went after he left," I said finally, my voice trembling. "He was furious when he found out about me and Jake. He stormed out, and I haven't heard from him since." The younger officer tilted her head slightly. "And how did he find out about you and Mr. Mitchell?" My face burned with shame, but I forced myself to answer. He found messages on my phone. He came home early and saw the texts." The male officer leaned back in his chair, exhaling through his nose. "Mrs. Parker, we're not here to pass judgment on your personal life, but we need to be honest with each other. If your husband did something out of anger, it's better for everyone if he comes forward now rather than later." I nodded, but the lump in my throat made it impossible to speak. "Do you have any idea where he might go?" the younger officer pressed. "Friends? Family? No. Y whisperat. He doesn't really talk to anyone since he left the military. I don't even know if he has anyone he trusts anymore." The officers exchanged another glance, and the mustached one stood up. "If you hear from him, you need to let us know immediately. Here's my card." He handed me a small white rectangle, the edges crisp and sharp, and I stared at it like it might bite me. They left without saying much else, but their presence lingered long after the door clicked shut. I collapsed onto the couch, my mind spinning. Jake was in the hospital, Liam was on the run, and somehow I was at the center of it all. My phone buzzed again, and I snatched it up, half hoping it was Liam. But it wasn't. "Jake, your husband's insane. He broke my arm, Rachel. Do you even understand how serious this is? I stared at the message, my hands trembling. So that's what Liam had done. He had confronted Jake and made good on his promise. Part of me was horrified, but another part, one I didn't want to acknowledge, felt a twisted sense of satisfaction. I didn't reply. What could I say? That I was sorry? That I didn't blame Liam? Jake wouldn't care. He only cared about himself. The day dragged on, each hour feeling like an eternity. I checked my phone constantly, hoping for some sign of Liam. But there was nothing, just silence. It wasn't until late that evening that the silence was broken. My phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't a text. It was a call, an unknown number. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the screen. Finally, I answered. Hello, Rachel. Liam's voice came through the line, low and steady. Relief and fear washed over me all at once. Liam, where are you? The police were here. They're looking for you. I know, he said, his tone cold. I saw them leave. What are you going to do? I asked, my voice trembling. There was a long pause before he answered. I'm not turning myself in, Rachel. Not yet. Liam, please, I begged. This is serious. They think you. I know what they think, he interrupted. But I'm not done yet. His words sent a chill down my spine. What do you mean, not done? You'll see, he said, and then the line went dead. I sat there, staring at the phone in my hand, my heart pounding in my chest. What was he planning? The phone call haunted me, the words echoing in my mind. I'm not done yet. What could Liam possibly mean? What else was left to do? My nerves were frayed as I paced the living room, replaying every moment of the last 24 hours. Liam wasn't the kind of man to make empty threats, and the thought of what he might be planning made my stomach churn. I tried calling him back, but his number was already disconnected. Panic set in. Liam wasn't just angry. He was calculating, and I had no idea what his next move would be. Would he come after Jake again? Would he come after me? The thought made me shiver. I decided to call Amanda. She had been my confidant through all of this, and even though I knew she would probably tell me I deserved everything that was happening, I needed someone to talk to. Rachel, what now? Amanda answered on the second ring, her tone sharp but concerned. Liam called me. I blurted out, my voice shaky. He said he's not done yet. There was a pause on the other end. What does that even mean? Amanda finally asked. I don't know. I cried, running a hand through my hair. But he sounded determined, like he has some kind of plan. Amanda let out a sigh. Okay, first of all, you need to calm down. Freaking out isn't going to help. Did he say where he is? No, I said, sinking onto the couch. He just said I'd see. Then he hung up. Great, Amanda muttered. So we're just supposed to sit here and wait for whatever chaos he's about to unleash? What else can we do? I snapped. I can't exactly call the cops and tell them my husband is planning something without even knowing what it is. Amanda was quiet for a moment. Do you think he's going after Jake again? I don't know, I admitted. But if he does, this time it won't just be a broken arm. The thought made me sick. As much as I hated Jake for what he had dragged me into, I didn't want Liam to ruin his life over it. But deep down, I also knew that Liam's rage wasn't just about Jake. It was about me, my betrayal, and that terrified me more than anything. I think you need to get out of the house, Amanda said suddenly. What? I asked, startled. Think about it, Rachel. If Liam's planning something and he's still this angry, do you really want to be sitting here when he shows up? Her voice was firm, almost scolding. Go to a hotel or something, just until this blows over. I hesitated. Amanda had a point, but leaving felt like running away. And yet, staying felt like walking into a storm I wasn't prepared to face. Okay, I said finally. I'll pack a bag. Good, Amanda said. And call me if anything happens. I mean it. I hung up and went to the bedroom, grabbing a duffel bag from the closet. As I stuffed clothes inside, my mind wandered back to Liam. What was he doing right now? Was he watching the house, waiting for the right moment? The thought made my skin crawl. By the time I was ready to leave, the sun had set, casting the house in shadows. I grabbed my keys and opened the front door, only to freeze in my tracks. Liam's truck was parked across the street. My heart stopped. He was here. I scanned the darkness, my eyes darting to every shadow, every movement. But I didn't see him. Was he watching me? Waiting for me to leave? Or worse, waiting for me to come back? I closed the door quickly, locking it behind me. My breath came in short, panicked gasps as I leaned against the door, clutching my bag like it was a shield. I couldn't leave now, not with him out there, but staying felt just as dangerous. Before I could decide what to do, my phone buzzed. I jumped, fumbling to grab it from my pocket. It was a text from Liam. Liam, smart choice staying inside. Don't worry, I'm not here for you. Yet. The words sent a chill down my spine. Yet? What did he mean by that? My hands shook as I typed out a reply. Me? Liam, please. Whatever you're planning, just stop. This isn't going to fix anything. He didn't reply. I waited, staring at my phone, willing it to buzz again. But it didn't. The silence was suffocating, and the longer it stretched on, the more my fear grew. Suddenly, there was a loud crash from outside. I ran to the window, peeking through the curtains. My heart sank. Liam was standing next to Jake's car. The windows shattered and the tires slashed. He had a crowbar in his hand, his movements calm and deliberate, like he was taking out the trash. I opened the window just enough to shout, "Liam, stop! What are you doing?" He looked up at me, his expression cold and unyielding. "Making sure he gets the message," he said, his voice carrying through the night. "Please," I begged. "You're going to get yourself arrested." He smirked, shaking his head. "Not tonight, Rachel. Tonight, I'm just getting started." Before I could respond, he dropped the crowbar and walked back to his truck, driving off into the night. I stood there, staring at the destruction he had left behind, my heart pounding in my chest. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The wreckage outside was a stark reminder of Liam's wrath. And as I stared at Jake's vandalized car from the window, I felt a chilling sense of inevitability. Liam wasn't done. He had made that painfully clear. And now it wasn't just about anger. It was about control. He was making a statement, carving his fury into every corner of my life. My phone buzzed again, yanking me from my thoughts. It was Jake. "Jake, are you seeing this? Your husband is insane, Rachel. He's going to kill me." I didn't reply. What could I say that would make any of this better? That I was sorry? That I'd somehow make it stop? Liam was beyond my control now, a storm that couldn't be calmed. Minutes felt like hours as I sat in the dark, my hands trembling and my mind spinning. I thought about calling the police, but what would I even say? My husband destroyed someone's car because I cheated on him? I'd be throwing him to the wolves, and as much as I feared him right now, part of me couldn't do it. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was loyalty I didn't deserve to feel. Whatever it was, it paralyzed me. Just as I began to convince myself that things couldn't possibly get worse, there was a knock at the door. My stomach dropped. Liam wouldn't knock. He'd barge in like a force of nature. But that didn't mean whoever was on the other side of the door was here to help. "Who is it?" I called out, my voice shaky. "It's Jake," came the reply. His voice was low, urgent. I hesitated, torn between letting him in and leaving him to deal with the mess outside on his own. Finally, I unlocked the door and cracked it open. Jake pushed past me without waiting for an invitation, his face pale and drawn. His arm was in a sling, a stark reminder of Liam's earlier attack. He paced the living room, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Rachel, this is out of control," he said, his voice a mixture of anger and fear. "We need to do something." "Like what?" I snapped, closing the door and leaning against it. "Call the police? You think that's going to stop him?" Jake stopped pacing, turning to face me with a look of desperation. "We don't have a choice. He's not going to stop until he ruins both of us." I swallowed hard, my mind racing. Jake was right. Liam wasn't going to stop. But calling the police felt like throwing gasoline on an already raging fire. "Jake, you don't know him like I do," I said quietly. "If we call the cops, it'll just make things worse." Jake let out a bitter laugh. "Worse? Rachel, he broke my arm and trashed my car. What's next? You think he's going to let me walk away from this?" I didn't have an answer. The truth was, I didn't know what Liam was capable of anymore. The man I had married, the man I had once loved, felt like a stranger now, an unstoppable force driven by betrayal and rage. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a text. It was a call. From Liam. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding in my chest. Jake glanced at the phone, his face going pale. "Don't answer it," he said quickly. But I knew I had to. If I didn't, it would only make things worse. I took a deep breath and swiped to answer, putting the phone to my ear. "Hello," I said, my voice trembling. "You let him in," Liam said, his voice cold and calm. "That's bold, Rachel. Bold and stupid." I froze, my blood turning to ice. "Liam, where are you?" "Close," he said simply. "Close enough to see you're still making terrible decisions." I glanced out the window, but the street was empty. My pulse raced as I tried to figure out where he was. "Liam, please," I said, my voice cracking. "This doesn't have to get worse." He laughed, a low, bitter sound that sent chills down my spine. "Oh, it's going to get worse, Rachel. For both of you. But I'm not here to talk about that right now." Jake was watching me intently, his face a mask of fear. I turned away, tried to keep my voice steady. "Then what do you want?" "I want you to listen," Liam said, his tone sharp. "Because this is the last chance you're going to get to make things right." My throat tightened. "What do you mean?" "You're going to end it," he said, his voice like steel. "With him. Right now. In front of me." I glanced at Jake, who was staring at me with wide eyes, clearly trying to figure out what Liam was saying. "Liam, this isn't—" "Don't argue with me, Rachel," he snapped. "If you want to fix this, you're going to end it. Or I will." The threat hung heavy in the air, and I knew he wasn't bluffing. Liam never bluffed. My hands shook as I lowered the phone, looking at Jake with tears in my eyes. "Jake," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, "you need to leave." "What?" he asked, his voice rising. "Rachel, I'm not leaving you alone with him." "You don't have a choice," I said, my voice trembling. "He's watching us. He won't stop until you're gone." Jake stared at me, his expression a mixture of anger and disbelief. "So that's it? You're just going to let him win?" "This isn't about winning," I said, tears streaming down my face. "This is about surviving." Reluctantly, Jake nodded, grabbing his keys and heading for the door. "This isn't over, Rachel," he said quietly. "Not for me." As the door closed behind him, I brought the phone back to my ear. "He's gone," I said, my voice shaking. "Good," Liam said. "Now we can really talk." Liam's voice on the other end of the line sent a chill down my spine. "Now we can really talk." It wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. I clutched the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white, my mind racing as I tried to anticipate what he was about to say. "What do you want from me, Liam?" I asked, my voice trembling but firm. "I told Jake to leave." "Isn't that enough for you?" There was a long pause, the silence stretching out like a noose tightening around my neck. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, almost too calm. "No, Rachel. It's not enough. Not even close." I swallowed hard, pacing the living room as I tried to steady my breathing. "Liam, please. Whatever this is, whatever you think you're doing, it's not going to fix anything. You're just making things worse." "I'm not here to fix anything," he said, his tone icy. "You broke this, Rachel. You. I'm just here to make sure you feel what I felt." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just about Jake. This was about me. About punishing me for what I'd done. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could say anything, Liam cut me off. "I want you to meet me," he said. "Tonight. No excuses." My stomach twisted. "Meet you? Where?" "You'll know when you get there," he said cryptically. "I'll text you the location. And Rachel, if you try to run, if you call the cops, or if you think about dragging Jake back into this, you'll regret it." The line went dead before I could respond. I stared at my phone, my heart pounding in my chest. Liam had always been intense, but this was something else entirely. He was pushing me into a corner, and I had no idea how to fight my way out. A text buzzed on my phone a moment later. It was from Liam. Just an address. No explanation, no instructions, just a location that felt like a trap. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the screen. Should I go? Should I ignore him? Should I call someone for help? Amanda. She'd know what to do. I called her immediately, my hands shaking as I explained what had happened. Amanda, he wants me to meet him. I don't know what he's planning, but it can't be good. Rachel, this is insane, Amanda said, her voice laced with panic. You can't go. What if he... She stopped herself, her breath hitching. What if he hurts you? What choice do I have? I asked, tears welling up in my eyes. If I don't go, he'll just come here. Or worse, he'll go after Jake again. Then call the police, Amanda pleaded. Rachel, you can't handle this on your own. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. You don't understand. If I call the police, Liam will know. And if he knows, my voice cracked, unable to finish the thought. There was a long pause on the other end of the line before Amanda sighed. Phoenix, if you're going to go, at least let me come with you. I'll stay in the car, but I'm not letting you face him alone. Relief washed over me, even though I knew it was a small comfort. Okay, I said quietly. Meet me at my place. I'll wait for you. Amanda showed up 20 minutes later, her face pale but determined. She didn't say much as I got into her car, the tension between us heavy. She drove in silence, following the GPS to the address Liam had sent. The location was on the outskirts of town, a deserted industrial area that looked like it hadn't seen life in decades. The streetlights flickered dimly, casting eerie shadows across the crumbling buildings. My stomach churned as Amanda parked the car a block away. Are you sure about this? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. No, I admitted, my hands shaking as I opened the door. But I don't have a choice. I stepped out into the cold night air, my breath visible in the dim light. The building Liam had directed me to was an old warehouse, its windows broken and its walls covered in graffiti. The door was slightly ajar, the darkness inside swallowing any light that tried to creep in. I glanced back at Amanda, who was watching me from the car, her face etched with worry. She gave me a small nod, and I turned back toward the warehouse, forcing myself to take a step forward. Then another, and another. The air inside was damp and heavy, the sound of my footsteps echoing against the concrete walls. I called out hesitantly, my voice trembling. Liam? No response. I took another step, my heart pounding in my chest. The silence was deafening, the darkness suffocating. I felt like I was walking into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Suddenly, a light flickered on, illuminating the center of the room. Liam was standing there, his arms crossed, his face shadowed by the single bulb hanging above him. He looked calm, too calm, and that terrified me more than any outburst ever could. You came, he said, his voice devoid of emotion. I didn't have a choice, I replied, my voice shaking. Liam, what is this? What do you want from me? He tilted his head, studying me like I was some kind of puzzle he was trying to solve. I want you to feel it, Rachel. The betrayal, the humiliation, the pain. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. I already do, Liam. I feel it every second of every day. Not enough, he said, his tone cold. Not nearly enough. Before I could respond, he pulled something out of his pocket, a small recorder. He pressed play, and Jake's voice filled the room, echoing off the walls. She's not going to leave him, Amanda. She's too scared. But don't worry, I'll take care of her. I always do. The words hit me like a slap, and I felt the air leave my lungs. Liam's expression didn't change as he watched me, his eyes sharp and unyielding. Do you see it now? He asked, his voice low. The lies, the games, everything you threw away for someone who doesn't give a damn about you. Tears streamed down my face as I shook my head, the weight of it all crushing me. Liam, please. I made a mistake, but this isn't the way. He stepped closer, his face inches from mine. You don't get to decide that anymore, Rachel. The weight of Liam's words bore down on me like a crushing tide. His calm demeanor, the unwavering steadiness in his voice, was more terrifying than any explosion of anger could have been. I was standing in the aftermath of my own betrayal, facing the man I had broken, and he was determined to make me feel every ounce of pain I'd inflicted. Liam, I whispered, my voice trembling, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I'm so sorry. His laugh was bitter, cutting through the stale air of the warehouse like a knife. Sorry, he repeated, taking another step closer. You think that word means anything to me now, Rachel? You destroyed everything we built. And for what? For him. I flinched, the venom in his voice slicing through me. I made a mistake, I said, tears streaming down my face. A terrible, unforgivable mistake. But hurting me isn't going to fix this. It's not going to fix you. He tilted his head, his eyes narrowing as if he were trying to figure out if I was being sincere or just playing another game. You still don't get it, he said finally, his voice low and dangerous. This isn't about fixing anything. This is about balance, about justice. The recorder in his hand clicked off, and the silence that followed was deafening. I could still hear Jake's smug voice echoing in my mind, taunting me, reminding me of just how far I'd fallen. Liam stepped back, his movements calculated and deliberate, and reached into his jacket. My breath caught in my throat as he pulled out a small black case and opened it. Inside was a handgun, gleaming under the harsh light of the overhead bulb. My knees nearly buckled as I stared at the weapon, every fiber of my being screaming at me to run, to fight, to do anything but stand there frozen in fear. Liam, no, I choked out. This isn't you. You're not a killer. His gaze was icy as he looked at me. I wasn't, he said. But then again, I wasn't a man whose wife slept with her boss either. I shook my head, backing up instinctively as he stepped closer. Please, I begged, my voice barely audible. You don't have to do this. He raised the gun, but instead of pointing it at me, he aimed it at the floor and pulled the trigger. The deafening crack of the shot made me scream, the sound ricocheting off the walls like a thunderclap. My ears rang as I stumbled back, clutching my chest. See, Rachel, he said, his voice calm as he lowered the gun. I'm not going to hurt you. That's too easy, too merciful. What I want is for you to live with this, to carry it with you every day, just like I have to. I stared at him, my chest heaving as adrenaline coursed through my veins. So what? I spat, my fear giving way to anger. You drag me here, scare me half to death, just to make some grand speech about how hurt you are? Congratulations, Liam. You've made your point. Now what? For the first time, his calm facade cracked, and a flicker of something, pain, regret, anger, flashed across his face. Now, he said quietly, I'll let you go, but not without a reminder. Before I could process his words, he reached into his jacket again and pulled out a manila envelope. He tossed it onto the ground at my feet, his expression unreadable. Take it, he said. I hesitated, my hands trembling as I bent down to pick it up. Inside were photos, dozens of them, pictures of me and Jake, some candid, some intimate, all damning. My stomach turned as I realized he must have been following me, documenting everything. You didn't just betray me, Rachel, Liam said, his voice cold. You humiliated me. You made me a joke. And now you get to feel what that's like. My hands shook as I clutched the envelope, my vision blurring with tears. What are you going to do with these? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. That depends on you, he said. If I see Jake anywhere near you again, if I hear even a whisper about you too, these go public. Your family, your friends, your colleagues. Everyone will know exactly who you are. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. Liam had the upper hand, and he knew it. You don't have to do this, I said, my voice breaking. I'll stay away from him. I'll do whatever you want. I know you will, he said simply, because now you understand what happens when you don't. He turned and walked toward the door, his footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. Just before he stepped outside, he stopped and looked back at me. Goodbye, Rachel. And then he was gone. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, the envelope clutched in my hands, my mind racing with everything that had just happened. Liam had left me broken, but not in the way I'd expected. He didn't need to hurt me physically. He'd done something much worse. He'd made sure I'd never escape the consequences of my actions. As I walked out of the warehouse and into the cold night air, I realized I wasn't just walking away from Liam. I was walking away from the life I destroyed, the life I could never get back. This was the end of the story, but not the end of the damage it caused.